The following episode was filmed on location from the surface of the sun.
We are the boys who grilled up all the meat again, grilled up all the meat again, grilled up all the meat again. We are the boys, grilled up all the meat again, bully boys, hey, bully boys, ho. Well, if you wanna have a good time, grill the meat again, grill the meat again, grill the meat again. I wanna catch a devil if you wanna have fun, wanna smell hell, grill the meat again.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Grilling History. We are in it. It is the sweltering dog days of summer. We're back to do the July edition. Have a great time. Here we're actually on location in a very special place. We're in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. We're on the Gettysburg battlefield, and we are joined by our very good friend, past guest of the show, absolute fucking legend, Rich Condon. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Thank you for being here.
Welcome to summer, man.
It's too hot.
Dude, it is disgusting
It's a
right
hot
now.
girl
If this is
summer.
yeah, I like that. If this is a precursor for what's to come.
So right before we went live filming, I checked the real temp at 98, and then it's like putting us in heat index at like 101. I'm like, that's so cool. That's so cool
That's
right
great.
now.
It's great. It's
Oh,
fantastic.
that's fantastic. So, Rich, we're here today, fitting to tell a story about the ground we're standing on. We're also here today to grill up some meats, as Parker Russell is a fan of. Rich, tell our listeners, viewers, what we're cooking today and then what we're talking about.
Sure. So right now on the grill we have some chicken skewers. We're gonna put on the grill shortly some Impossible burgers and some Impossible brats.
All right.
And then of course we're drinking some ice cold beers. At least they're cold for now. Old German, which is actually brewed in my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
This
by
is a Pittsburgh
Brewing.
beer.
It is a Pittsburgh beer, formerly Cumberland, Maryland.
Okay.
And the reason I felt like we had to be drinking Old German today
Sure.
because we are currently on the ground upon which the 11th Corps of the United States Army fought on July 1st.
A lot of old
1863.
Germans in that
A lot of
corps.
old Germans in that section of the Army. So
Nice.
This is our nod to them.
Plus, everybody knows I love a tasty pint, and it is not exactly a summer beer. Although, I weirdly could go for a Guinness right now, you know.
There's never a bad time.
You hit
for
a stout?
Guinness.
It's a homer. So, privileged to be on this. It's pretty cool that you live. Unfortunately, development has to reach places, and we say in one breath, unfortunately, part of this battlefield was developed, but fortunately, you live on a part of it. So it's kind of rad that it all worked out. What are we sort of navigating today? The fighting, what are we following? A unit, a person, sort of just a general action of where we're at? Because the atmosphere is all around us right now, right?
Yeah, I'd say it's a little bit of all of that. The ground that we're standing on right now is, for a little bit, the afternoon of July 1st, 1863, the far right of the Union line.
Okay.
So not too far north of where we're standing right now is a place called now known as Barlow's Knoll.
Sure.
Previously known as Bloker's Knoll. And after Francis Barlow's 1st Division of the 11th Corps is driven back by Confederate troops from Richard Ewell's Corps, they're going to be passing over this ground.
All right.
And so where we're standing right now, in fact, Confederates from Isaac Avery's North Carolina Brigade and Harry Hayes' Louisiana Brigade are going to be hot on their heels and brought up not too far, actually right down the alleyway from where we're standing, is a place called Coster Avenue.
Ooh, so we're going to go on a field
We're
trip.
going to go on a little bit of field trip after we finish grilling these fine non-meats and some meats.
Some meats. It
Some
is kind of
meats.
a requisite when you look at, the boys
So, yeah,
who
some
grilled
meats,
up all the
some
meat again.
non-meats.
Right.
But Coster Avenue is the position where Colonel Charles Coster's brigade, a little over 900 guys, are positioned around 4 o'clock p.m. the afternoon of July 1st, trying to stem that tide of the Confederates sweeping through Gettysburg.
So I'm excited for this one, man. We've had a bunch of home runs with this project this summer, a bunch of tasty treats. I'm excited to try some Impossible meats that accidentally rhymed. Holy
Oh, wow. Good job.
Let's go. But I am also very excited to try the brats, because I will tell you, as a summer vibe, brats and dogs over burgers for me, but I love a good burger.
Did you say the brats were going to be Impossible as well?
They are also Impossible.
Oh, are they?
They are, yep.
A whole lot of
I
Impossible
feel like it's
meats.
still a nice little nod to the
Oh yeah.
Germans that love them.
You're the most cultured person we'll have on the show with all your replacement meats.
I'm really trying.
So tell me a little bit about what we're cooking on here too. This is the first grill I've ever seen that actually has a standard transmission.
We're kicking it into high gear here.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that. Is that for lifting the coals up and down?
It is.
Oh,
It's a coal lift?
It's so
That's
you can
great.
control the heat.
It reminds me of a tractor that I had. Only like that tractor did not have not a 6-speed.
I do like to. I love cooking with charcoal.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little bit old-fashioned. You can probably ask Pat.
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks for
still
yourself. Look at your vibe. Like, your whole aesthetic is, I mean, dude, I love it, but it is definitely not current.
Well, I think
I'm old. I still read by oil lamp.
You do. I love when
Nice.
you post those
It's
pictures.
taking a toll on my eyes now.
When you were
you're
living,
like Loretta Lynn, like coal
when-
miner's daughter territory.
when Rich
Poor
was
old
living
man.
down in Port Royal and was posting his like random tonight I'm readings, I was like, I want to be in the room for story time right now.
live reading.
Nature vibe.
This is kind of the third show and the third different type of cooking method we had here.
I'm
We
actually
had
excited. This is the
pellet
most
grill.
traditional.
It is, yeah. We've had the pellet, we had the smoker, and now
right.
we have actual charcoal. So this
Oh,
is kind of
wow.
this is kind of a third
You guys
show.
haven't done propane yet?
Not
we have
yet.
not done
No,
propane
okay.
yet.
But who knows? The future is wide open, friend.
Look, we want to
could
make
have
Hank
Hank
Hill
Hill on the
happy.
show.
We could have
Yes.
Hank Hill propane. Best joke on that show. Have you seen the meme where it's like when he pulls out the tiny WD-40 to open the bigger WD-40? Yeah.
That's nice.
I'm excited to see that show. What's up, man? Good. What's up, dude? I like your shirt. We got a cool neighbor over here just walking by. Rich, are you ready to talk about some fighting?
Yeah, I am. I think, let's see here. I'm just trying to kind of get a read on how
On
our
the
chicken's
chicken?
doing. Yeah,
It's always
it
good to
shouldn't-
read the chicken.
Oh, we got the wee-woos.
Yeah, you're going to hear that because we have Gettysburg Fire Department just straight down Stratton.
Hell yeah.
It's one of the
Nice.
joys of living on this side of town.
Shout out to the fire department. Boys doing good work. And girls. Shout out to the people doing good work in the fire department.
People do
Don't come at me. All right, it's hot.
It's hot.
It's hot. I meant no.
This might be the first episode of Grilling History
Can't even
where one of
talk.
us actually goes to the hospital when we're done. This might.
Yeah.
So
We're close, so don't worry.
That's
now,
right.
of course, we think about Gettysburg being a hot day in
Yeah.
July 1st,
I think this is fairly
1863.
representative of that.
Representative
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah.
Thank God we're
And-
not wearing our blue.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, no. It's and I think the field.
His Pat can be too. I'll just soldier. Don't you worry, man. I'll take it from
Oh,
here.
God, that was the truest thing ever said on the History of Things podcast. I'm sorry. Anyway, go for it.
So, I forget what I was saying.
I have a habit.
Sorry,
I apologize.
The heat got to me.
We were just talking about how fitting it is that it is boiling hot and we're not wearing our wool and
yeah,
and it
so-
represents our day fairly well.
So, the in the weeks leading up to the Battle of Gettysburg, it's a fairly rainy June,
Right.
which kind of with the last week, 2 weeks have been kind of crappy around here.
Yep.
It's been pretty wet, pretty rainy. Now we're starting to feel the humidity, so we can kind of place ourselves a little bit in the mindset of the guys who are fighting over this ground on July 1st.
Well, I can tell you what, if they're anything like my mindset, it's this sucks.
This
This
I'm
blows.
Sure that was kind of across the board. People
And nobody's shooting at me today.
especially if you're in Costume Brigade.
I was gonna make
we're-
a silver bullets joke, but
I was
you know,
gonna say, we're
we're
not
drinking
narrowing
better beer
anymore.
than that right now. So
Chicken, I think, should be done. We'll say in about 10 minutes.
all right,
And then I'll bring out the non-meats.
bring out the non-meats. We're gonna play ominous music in the background when the ominous meats come out.
Okay.
Like I'm probably gonna play like the Darth Vader because now I'm suspicious.
It's hard to tell the difference,
Especially
with the right seasoning.
this man agrees to disagree. This man is a
Talking it up.
meats man. He is
I'm a meats man.
he is the Ron Swanson. He yells at mushrooms on the grill.
Ron?
What in the devil's name is this?
Portobello mushrooms.
Where's the steak?
Oh, there's no steak. That's a healthier option. It's organically grown.
So I'm excited for the chicken, though. To be honest, that looked really good when
I'm
you last
glad.
opened
well,
it.
it's like, again, it's almost done. I just figured I'll, before we get into the history, we'll get these guys off the grill and we'll get the burgers and brats going.
We'll bring
And we
out
can
the.
talk through it then. Is that all right?
Yeah.
That sounds
Okay.
great. You know what I loved about your neighborhood when I came through? I just kind of drove around and I saw a monument that I don't think your normal average visitor to
Is
Gettysburg
it the Peace
sees.
Monument?
No, it's a New York monument.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just a little bit
Right over that way.
catty-cornered.
And of
To
course,
us there.
that's one of the monuments placed along Coster Avenue. Which,
There we go.
Can we just give a shout out and a cheers to this breeze? Like,
Yes.
I just want to give a shout out to this wind.
Thank you, wind.
I'm gonna face you. I'm gonna step out from Parker and embrace the wind.
Start stacking these guys up.
What if if I stand in the sun? Maybe I'll dry.
But that I don't know if that's counterintuitive, because the sun is also making you wet.
Oh yeah, it does.
But so like I mentioned earlier, we're standing on, I think, pretty significant ground from the
Is it good ground?
Motherfucker, you're not contractually obligated to make the good ground joke. Every time he can, this man, if you say good ground or ground,
we'll go right to John Buford.
John Buford. Yeah.
is it good ground?
Well, sir.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty bad ground. if you're in Coster's brigade on July 1st.
Yeah.
So kind of backing up a little bit, of course, as the Union Army is showing up here the morning of July 1st, 1863, you have the 1st Corps, which kind of goes north and west of the town of Gettysburg, and the 11th Corps, which will go to the north of town and kind of extending a little bit kind of east of town, northeast of town. By about 3 o'clock that afternoon, Confederates of Richard Ewell's Corps arrive. Of course, there's hot engagements again north and west of town. The 1st Corps has been engaged since the morning.
Right. Is that the stuff happening over at like Herbst Woods and all that, or
Yes.
yeah? Okay.
Yep. And so where you're seeing the 11th Corps engaged here is on this flat plain north of town. It's kind of, if you ever walk up there, I walk it fairly often, almost every day. It's kind of strange. You're sitting on this plain and you look right in front of you to the north and northwest, and you see Oak Ridge kind of stretching westward. And again, it's just kind of a strange anomaly. But the 11th Corps is going to be stretched along this plain, and they barely connect with the 1st Corps on July 1st. However, you have this little bulge on that 11th Corps line, which is Francis Barlow's division of the 11th Corps, the 1st Division of the 11th Corps. And he moves up into that position. Think of it kind of like Dan Sickles on July 2nd.
Okay.
He sees this opportunity. He sees this high ground. And he figures, if I don't take that high ground, I'm down here and I'm at a disadvantage. But he also, again, is kind of like bulging out from the main line.
So is in this moment, is it viewed the same way, whereas Sickles is kind of accidentally doing the right thing, but he's being a jerk in the process?
Barlow's technically supposed to show up and go into position a little bit south of that knoll, but he sees this little piece of ground that's kind of jutting up.
Yeah.
And kind of overlooking Rock Creek down below.
Okay.
And he makes this decision where, okay, maybe if I were to stay here where I'm told to be positioned, that might not work out for me. If Confederate artillery gets up on Bloker's Knoll.
So he's making a legitimate tactical decision.
Tactical decision.
Okay.
But again, it doesn't really work out for him because the entire Union line is going to crumble within a couple of hours.
Right, and these are the guys that end up basically running through town at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where our story starts, I think.
Okay.
Barlow's guys are up on the knoll. Confederates from Ewell's Corps are going to attack. In particular, John B. Gordon's Georgia Brigade is going to attack.
Does he get wounded here? He gets wounded everywhere else. Does he add it to this?
He gets shot like 1,500 times.
But is this on the resume? Is Gettysburg on the resume?
I don't think Gettysburg's not on the resume. However, Barlow does get wounded.
Okay.
And it might be apocryphal, but after the post-war period, there's a story that is passed around about John B. Gordon lending assistance to Francis Barlow on the battlefield.
Oh.
Again, it might be one of these things is we're kind of approaching the end of the 19th century where we're trying to push for this idea of the Union.
We're getting a little more romantic.
Right, exactly.
Right, yeah.
So we don't know for sure exactly how those events play out. But as Barlow's men are being pushed back off the knoll, at that point in the day, John Reynolds, who had first arrived in the battlefield that day.
Still alive.
That morning, he's alive. Of course, he gets killed in the morning, killed instantly over near Herbst Woods.
Right.
And when he is killed in action, the command of the Army falls to Oliver Otis Howard, who's commanding the 11th Corps.
Really?
Yes. So it falls to him, and in turn, because Howard is now kind of coordinating things on the ground, Meade has not arrived in the field yet.
Right. Because he shows up at night.
Right. So now command of the 11th Corps has fallen to Carl Schurz, who is one of Howard's division commanders.
Okay.
Land chicken.
Oh wow, that looks great.
Honestly, that looks banging.
That looks really good. I can't wait.
I'm gonna take one, and I'm gonna dip it in barbecue when you come back.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
I don't know why I'd cheers that.
Oh,
Oh my
wow.
God, Rich.
Wow.
Have you breathed?
Oh my God, dude,
That's
that's
good.
so good.
See, that's the reason why I wanted to taste it without the sauce. I wanted to really that's amazing.
See, in Pittsburgh, we like to dip almost everything and everything.
There's like a tang to it.
Go with the,
All right, here we go. These are the impossible meats, right?
the impossible meat.
To meat the impossible meats.
Why did
we
you do
sing
that?
songs? I don't know.
Why did you do that?
Can we just sing songs to the meat?
Into the meat.
No.
Sing
These
to
are the
the meat.
impossible sauces.
Okay.
So what are they made out of if they're not sausage?
I don't know, man. It's impossible.
Pork.
It's impossible.
Tell us how the sausage is made.
I don't know how the sausage is made. I just eat it. I know it sounds terrible.
Well, what kind of spices here do we have on the impossible meats?
Old Bay on here,
Okay.
some garlic seasoning.
I see that you were speaking to our Maryland souls.
Interesting
here.
that the ambassador from Maine is now identifying as a Marylander.
I understand some of the Maryland things.
I'll tell you what, I just added some salt to the seasoning because I just had a huge sweat drip into my mouth as I was chewing that chicken. It is
That's
that kind of hot where I
that's a
guess
wet brine.
I am literally just dripping sweat like that right now.
Yeah, right now we're wet brining ourselves.
And we're in the
right now.
shade for the most part.
So Barlow's guys are being pushed off the knoll, hot on their heels, the men of John B. Gordon's Georgia Brigade. And Carl Schurz, of course, being in command of the 11th Corps, or temporary command of the 11th Corps, is on this end of the field. And he's reaching out to Oliver Otis Howard, who's back on East Cemetery Hill at this point, saying, hey, I need reinforcements. I need some guys to at least help stem the tide so this isn't a complete disaster.
Okay.
And so eventually, and then there is another division on East Cemetery Hill. It's the 2nd Division, 11th Corps, led by Adolf von Steinwehr.
I'm sorry, what's his first name?
Adolf von
Is that the guy the street's named after?
Yep.
Cool.
Steinwehr Avenue.
Nice.
At the time would have been Emmitsburg Road still.
All right.
Sure.
Yep. So
Now it's Disneyland Row.
let's not get started on that. So, the U.S. troops being pushed back. Carl Schurz is pleading with Howard to send him some reinforcements, and eventually, by about 3:30 in the afternoon, he's going to release Colonel Charles Coster's brigade, which at that point is roughly 1,000 men. And so they're gonna file from Cemetery Hill up Baltimore Street. They're gonna go through the square, what we now know as Lincoln Square, and they're gonna pass by the Gettysburg train station, which you can still see today.
Yep.
And there he's gonna leave one of his regiments, which
To guard the diner, right?
to guard the diner. That's right. And so
That's a national treasure, that
it
diner
is
is.
a national treasure. So even at the time, they understood the importance
Of the
working
diner.
Right.
Well, where else are the reenactors going to eat?
Right.
He leaves the 73rd Pennsylvania Infantry there, which is one of these German regiments of the 11th Corps.
Yeah.
Leaves him there to secure the train station, and of course he'll find out soon that this was a grave mistake. He's just cut himself short about 200 or so men. And as they're passing down Stratton Street, which is just right over there, Carl Schurz is going to meet the brigade. He meets Charles Coster, and he's going to lead them to their position. And so, as they're filing down Stratton, they're going to pass the home of a guy named John Kuhn, who owns a brickyard. And in fact, his home is still there today. They pass the Kuhn house. As they're passing, you have the 134th New York Infantry at the head of the column. Right behind them, the 154th New York Infantry. And at the back, you're going to have the 27th Pennsylvania Infantry, which again is another one of these German regiments.
It's the Germans.
The Germans.
I love that there are units that have these triple-digit numerical designations. Like, I just love that there are that many volunteer units.
Especially from Pennsylvania and New York.
Right, the big contributors to the Union. Yeah.
So
Ohio's like, don't diss us. Sorry.
You can dis-
Yeah, I'll diss Ohio.
But as they're passing down Stratton, there's an account that talks about an artillery shell actually striking
Ooh,
and showering some of the men of the 154th New York with brick.
like the brick and stuff. Yeah.
Right, and if you go to the home today, you can still see there's a commemorative Hotchkiss shell that's lodged into the side of the house, like someone cemented it
Yeah.
later on. So as they pass the home, they're going to be ordered to file to the right, and right past the house, there's a little gateway going to the Brickyard. And so Coster's Brigade, which at this point, a little less than 1,000 men, is going to file to the right along a post and rail fence in this little brickyard, kind of isolated on the far right of the Union line. To their left, actually next to the Gettysburg College campus today, you can still see their monument there and a couple of guns, is Lewis Heckman's battery, four Napoleon guns that are posted there.
All right.
And so this is really all that's going to be dispatched to hopefully patch up the chaos that's unfolding on the far right of the Union line after July 1st, 1963. So, from the time they arrived at about 3:45, 4 o'clock that afternoon, just as they're arriving is when Confederates are smacking the Union line. Again, right on the heels of the men of Barlow's division.
Right.
And the ground that we're standing on right now is really the middle of Coster's Brigade. When we walk down to Coster Avenue, you'll see the Confederates are coming right down this way across this property. If I were to place a unit here across this property, one in particular, the 6th North Carolina Infantry,
Okay.
is going to pass over here. They're catching artillery fire from Heckman's battery right over there. In a matter of 30 minutes, it's estimated that Heckman's battery is going to get off about 113.
Holy moly.
rounds
Dude, they're
into
cranking.
Hayes and Avery's brigade.
They are cranking
Yep.
rounds out.
Shot and shells being fired into those guys. Soon, though, the men of Heckman's battery can be driven back. Confederates capture 2 guns of the battery. The men of Coster's brigade, they say, when they first arrived, the Confederates are basically right in front of them already. And where we're standing, this wasn't clear-cut ground as you see it now. It wasn't
Yep.
freshly cut, manicured grass.
It's a nice
Actually,
lawn.
they just got here this morning.
It's a beautiful lawn. A nice little summer lawn. Did you do this just for the show?
It's good for bocce ball. No, just work out.
Are you a bocce guy?
It's the game of my people.
Dude, I love bocce ball. All right.
So is the guys of Coster's brigade arrive in the Brickyard, maybe about 75 yards to the south of where we're standing right now.
Okay.
They file behind this post and rail fence. Right now, of course, like I said, this is not a well-manicured yard. At the time, it's a wheat field. And it's ripe for harvesting. So the wheat is pretty high.
It's like chest high.
It's about chest high.
Yeah.
And, looking south, you can see there's a little bit of a drop in the terrain. So the guys who are on the left of Coster's brigade can't see right in front of them. They can hear the Confederates before they actually see them. And the post-war account actually talks about the Confederates being in such great formation, they look like they're on parade. That every few rods there's a Confederate battle flag flying.
That's not a good look if you're on
It's not
defense.
a good look on defense.
They look sharp.
Again, they don't have very long to respond.
Right.
These guys get off an estimated 6 to 9 shots before they're overrun. Wow. And it's complete chaos.
So this is, to me, Rich, the part of the day where, because, the battle kind of kicks off with this incidental contact and steamrolls, right? I always use the analogy that the battle at Gettysburg is, imagine 2 dogs that don't know they're near each other, and then suddenly they realize they're like ass to ass, and then they just suddenly, when dogs like freak out on other dogs, they just
Right.
go nuts. That's kind of what this fight is to me. But eventually there comes a moment where there are units that are all in the area at the initial moments of contact, but they're not organized, they're not close enough to initially become a part of it. By this late afternoon, is everybody that was initially around rolling onto the field at this point, both, for Union defenders of the town and I guess Lee's Confederate force that's kind of been responding to this all day?
At this point in time, the first corps line is already starting to break and run through town.
Because the Federals are corps by corps. They're stacked up all the way down to Carroll County where I live. We got
Right.
the 2nd and 5th Corps like hanging out in the 6th Corps wings where I live. So it's like there's a lot of boys in this area, but they're not here yet.
Right, and so, is the men of Coster's brigade are actually moving through town to move to this position in the Kuhn Brickyard. They're already running into guys who are beaten and bloodied and battered, retreating through town, often in a chaotic organization. They don't call it organization.
We'd call it open order at this
Open
point.
order at this point. And so they're kind of seeing, though, what's awaiting them on the north end of town.
Right.
And again, they are just a Band-Aid. They are going to at least just hold, the idea is to stem the Confederate tide, or at least hold them off long enough so the men from Barlow's division can safely make it back to Cemetery Hill.
Okay.
And they do. They are, I would say they're successful in their mission to at least stem the tide. They hold them off for a little bit. Of course, that one brigade facing 2 brigades of Confederates from North Carolina and Louisiana, totaling about 3,000 men. So you have 3,000 versus
Like less than
a little
1,000.
over 900.
Yeah.
Right. Again, only a Band-Aid. And they got off those few shots before they're going to break and run. And according to several primary source accounts, the orders given by Coster for the men to fall back, they start to realize they're being flanked on both sides. You have men of the 57th North Carolina who crossed Rock Creek,
Right.
basically coming behind the 134th New York.
Okay.
Keep in mind, the 134th New York is the extreme right of the Union line for a very short period after the Columbus. So they're coming behind them. You have the guys from Hayes, Louisiana Brigade, starting to come behind the 27th Pennsylvania, and their left flank anchors on Stratton Street. At some point in the chaos, the 27th Pennsylvania is going to actually take 50 of their guys and kind of plug them between the 2 New York units. They're a little spread out, you know? 27th retreats, 134th, of course, they didn't get a chance over there. They
Sure,
start retreating.
sure.
The last regiment that's going to be standing on that line, their Coster's brigade, 150.
I feel like I know this unit. Why do I know this unit? Is this Amos Humiston's unit?
This is Amos Humiston.
That's why I know this
And
unit.
we're getting to that part.
Okay, cool.
So as all this chaos is starting to unfold, there's hand-to-hand combat in the Brickyard and along Stratton Street. These guys are starting to fall down Stratton back toward Gettysburg, back toward Cemetery Hill.
Yep.
Basically following suit with the rest of Barlow's division. This is where a lot of guys end up captured, wounded. A lot of them are captured. And of course, quite a few men killed as well. The brigade as a whole in this melee is going to take approximately 61% casualties.
Oof.
The 154th New York in particular is going to take close to 80% casualties.
Is this their worst go in the war?
Yes.
Day 1 at Gettysburg?
Yes. And a lot of these guys end up, the ones who aren't killed or wounded that are captured are eventually sent to Anderson.
Oh.
Where a lot of them, of course.
Obviously pass.
I have a uncle,
Really?
great uncle, I guess, but in Anderson.
So, Rich, I learned about Amos Humiston. I learned about Amos Humiston through the terrible Tony and Ridley Scott Gettysburg documentary.
The one filmed in Africa?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That documentary was cool to me for a number of reasons. It put a bunch of people that we know and call friends on the map. Like, that's where I discovered our late friend Dr. Peter Carmichael. He was one of the big talking heads on that. Gary Edelman's Jazz Hands blew up on that documentary. But I will never forget a couple things about it. One, the stupid emphasis on the Confederate rebel yell. But anyway, I digress. But I remember they focused on Amos Humiston's story.
Yes.
Because it's quite poignant, obviously, right, with his children and the photograph and all that. But
Right.
that's where I learned about him.
It's a huge story, and during this retreat of Coster's brigade down Stratton Street, Humiston is one of the men on the 154th New York Company C that's retreating back through town. And of course, these guys, a lot of them end up surrendering on Stratton Street. There's some guys who took that chance to try and make it back to the main.
Right, like he's, I think, wounded and trying to run, right?
So he is.
Or he gets wounded in the process of running.
There's some guys that mention seeing him before the battle or maybe going into battle and being with him in the battle line. But there are no, to my knowledge, accounts that talk about him getting wounded. So it's kind of assumptions. He makes it
Okay.
past the railroad track, not too far from where the 73rd Pennsylvania had been left in reserve.
Okay.
He makes it almost to York Street, and he's found sometime July 5th, July 6th, as Union troops are kind of moving back through Gettysburg. He's found dead, clutching an ambrotype image of his 3 children.
Right. And
And
that,
of course, he's unidentified at this point.
right, but that image is published, and that helps his identification, right? That's part of his story?
Yeah, so the story of Amos Humiston is fascinating and very tragic, but I think it also raises a lot of awareness throughout the North and perhaps the South about the identities of, if you get any Civil War battlefield, you go to any national cemetery.
Unidentified.
How many
Unidentified.
identified soldiers do you
Unidentified,
see?
right.
And how many, a lot
Unknown,
of these, a lot
unknown.
of them are fathers.
Yep.
Of course, and that's kind of what draws a lot of people to the story. The last letter.
We've talked, sorry to interrupt, but we've talked about that theme with as much as we've covered Titanic. We talk about the amount of unknowns that are
Right.
buried in the cemetery in Halifax and stuff, and just, each one of those unknowns was a father, a wife, a husband, a daughter, whatever adjective or relation you want to put on it. But it's like unknown is just such a cold word after a while, but they are literally, there's a whole life.
Right.
And so every single one of these unknowns, Amos Humiston initially and stuff like that. Yeah, because we are in the era where the military doesn't do even the collar disc yet. Like the soldiers are doing this on their own when they think about it, right? They're sewing the ID tag, sewing the name in the coat or whatever, right?
Otherwise, just finding personal effects on it.
Right, and it's like, oh, I noticed that's Rich's watch.
Right.
Right. So
We can tell it's Rich because look at the shirt.
Right.
this was Rich's shirt.
It's
I'm the only
rad.
person who wears
It's
this shirt.
rad.
So they, of course, they find Humiston. They bury him where he lay, just like so many other people in Coster's brigade
Yep.
and the brigades of Avery and Hayes. And
They,
then,
they bury him where he lay? Because doesn't he lay like behind somebody's house?
yeah.
So they just bury him right there behind the
He's in
house?
Judge Samuel Russell's property up near the corner of Stratton and York.
It's a fine name.
The Russells? You're biased.
Little Russell.
Parker Russell.
Little
Bias
Little
right here.
bias.
Little bias right there.
they're gonna bury him where he lay, and of course they take note because it's this really poignant scene of this guy holding the last thing he saw on this earth before he shuffled off this mortal coil was looking at a picture of his children, his 3 children, this amber type image.
That's how I'm going out.
That's the best way to go out.
Literally how I'm going out.
I mean, when you look at 19th century Americans' perception of death, we think of this as good death. Humiston's found in this position, and of course people take note of it, and when they bury him, of course they don't know his name or any of his information. You can maybe assume by the position of his body that maybe he's part of Coster's brigade, maybe he could be a New Yorker or a Pennsylvanian. But this image is actually picked up eventually by a guy named John Burns. Not John Burns of Gettysburg fame, but
Right.
John Burns.
Get off that, guys.
Different John Burns of
A doctor,
Gettysburg
it's a
fame.
Dr. John
Oh,
Burns.
okay.
It's get off different lawn.
Oh, okay.
Get off a different
Get off a different
Gotcha.
lawn.
He's a Philadelphia resident.
Oh, boo. You're from Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
It's okay
yeah,
to
I can
boo
say
Philly.
boo
It's okay to
Philly,
boo
boo
Philly.
But he takes this amber type and ends up having a bunch of CDVs or carton receipts reproduced from this photo and scattered across the North. And of course, they also publish accounts of it in northern newspapers. And at the time, you didn't really have the ability to publish a photograph, so they describe what was found in this photograph and what the scene looked like. That a soldier was found killed, clutching this photo of his 3 children. They described the 3 children. In Humiston's case, the last letter he wrote to his wife was sometime in mid to late May 1863. The last time she heard from him. And she's in this little town called Portville, New York, up western New York, a little bit southeast of Buffalo. And eventually, by October, she sees publication of this account of a dead soldier found with this picture of 3 children, and she's like, oh,
My kids.
it sounds like my kids.
Yeah.
And of course, she hasn't heard from her husband in about 4 months or so. So she starts to, she reaches out eventually to Burns. And by November of 1863, in fact, the same day, November 19th, 1863, the same day that the Soldiers' Cemetery, the National Cemetery, is dedicated
Okay.
here in Gettysburg, his identity is confirmed by the American Presbyterian newspaper.
Wow.
And so, sometime shortly after, Humiston is going to be given a proper burial. He's going to be exhumed from that site on the northeastern corner of York and Stratton, and he's going to be buried in the National Cemetery.
Is his grave one of the more visited of the graves up there, since he is one of the more
I think with,
known?
I think with that story, probably.
Okay. Because Gettysburg, obviously but like for our listeners, if you're unaware, Gettysburg has like a cult fandom, like completely unique to itself inside of the whole war. And so there are people that are familiar with the intricacies and the little stories and everything of Gettysburg in a very different way. And I wonder, like, when people come here, if he's one of those little things that, like, people make a point to go and find him in the cemetery and, pay respects
So,
or whatever.
Every time I've been over there, there's some kind of tribute or flag, of course. But otherwise, his grave kind of blends in with the rest.
Which is fitting in a way.
It is, and like I was saying before, his story I think illuminates this greater issue where a lot of people are missing especially their fathers, and that's kind of the story that's highlighted with this in particular. A lot of people are noticing that there's this disconnect. People aren't observing every dead soldier in the battlefield and being like, oh, we have to
Publish what he's got.
story,
Yeah.
publish a photo of his children. Again, I think the story, the scene.
So he's very lucky. Their family is very lucky in the sense that his story
they
was
were able to
elevated.
Identify.
Yeah.
Eventually, yes.
Yes.
So when I pass
So they
away,
get some sort of closure.
So when I pass away,
and that's exactly it. Yeah.
Sorry, Parker.
so oh no, I was just gonna say when I pass away here on the field today, are you gonna bury me right where I lay?
Probably.
Okay.
I don't think I can carry you.
Okay.
I'm not strong.
Well, I mean, you've been carrying me now for like what, 6-7 months?
Far longer, friend. Just kidding.
But I think kind of, long term, what this story does is not just illuminate his personal story, but it also speaks to the thousands upon thousands of orphans that are left behind on the home front. And so, all those CDVs that we talked about that are sold, funds are collected to start establishing an orphanage for the children of the battlefield. And actually, that photo, you can still find them today. I would say semi-commonly, you'll see children of the battlefield.
And it's Humiston's kids?
And it's Humiston's kids, right.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And there's sheet
Okay.
music that's published, Children of the Battlefield. And really, this story, of course, kind of sheds light on the amount of children that have been left fatherless in the North. And so they eventually are going to establish an orphanage on the south end of town. In fact, within eyeshot of where Amos Humiston was buried after the discovery of his identity.
Wow. That's cool.
I think it might be good with these guys.
All right, you're going to have to do a presentation shot. We might be low on the table for the camera, but those do... Look, those look delicious.
See,
I'm not
these
going to lie.
do look like meats. They do look like meats.
My suspicions, yes, I do think this is impossible. Rich, show our viewers the impossible meats. Oh, I'll get my chicken so I don't ruin the shot. Yeah, we'll get some more chicken. Fresh chicken. Look at that. So these are impossible burgers, impossible brats. Brought to you by Old German Premium Lager.
Please drink responsibly.
Please drink responsibly. I'm down with it. Do you think they'd be like, what the fuck, vegetables though, bro?
Well, yeah, this is the future of meats. Oh, Howard would probably embrace some non-traditional meats as well.
He was a pretty progressive guy for his time.
Progressive guy, yeah.
He was
I'm sure he also was responsible for atrocities out west.
Aren't they all, brother?
I don't know. I like to think that
Yes.
Oliver
Makes up
Howard,
for
the
it.
vegetarian. O.O. Howard, the meat hater.
All right.
you guys want to dig in and then
And then take a walk? All right, Rich. So before the field trip, I got to say, I remain somewhat still suspicious because of the impossible nature of this.
Yeah.
But I am less skeptical than I was at the start because it does look absolutely delicious. So I think the only way to confirm or deny the possibility, the impossibility of these meats is to try them.
try them.
So
Howard would do it.
Howard would do it. He would do it. He'd say, "Fucking send it."
I think Coster would do it too.
Coster would definitely do it. His guys are out there. All right, so let's do it. Cheers. Rich, thank you so much for making this. Let's dig in. Grilling history. Enjoy the field trip.
You wanna have a good time, grill the meat again, grill the meat again, grill the meat again. You want a quarter pounder, do you want a good grill, do you want it done well? Grill the meat again, have a good time, grill the meat again.
So I haven't completely converted you yet.
Yeah, this is great. Hey, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna set up the shot. I'm just gonna go over here. I'll see you guys in a minute. All right? It was really great. Great. It was great. It's great. Hey. My name is Parker Russell. I'm in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It is 112 degrees. They have fed me undipped chicken and impossible meats. I'm so hot right now.
So we're here on our field trip that Rich promised us. Rich, you're taking us down to Coster's line, is it?
For the space, again, this was a wheat field. To our west is Stratton Street, just on the other side of these buildings right here.
Right.
But yeah, we're heading right now toward the John Kuhn Brickyard.
Okay.
On the north side of Gettysburg. And just behind Parker, we're almost there, is a piece of property that was preserved by the Gettysburg Battlefield Memorial Association.
Oh, I've been down here with you. I love this
I think
little
you
place.
have, yeah.
Yes, because I've seen this mural. I love this spot.
Yes, so
This is a cool spot, Rich.
this was all preserved by the Gettysburg Battlefield Memorial Association. Now is managed by the National Park Service. It's about 3/4 of an acre. And as we look kind of down here off to the right-hand side, you can see a few monuments. The first one on the right being for the 27th Pennsylvania Infantry. It's a regiment recruited mainly from eastern Pennsylvania around Philadelphia area. And their line of battle, again, would have been behind a post and rail fence right in front of or north of the John Kuhn Brickyard. Their left flank anchoring right down there on Stratton Street and extending to the right down here. And of course, next down you have the brigade marker for Charles Coster's brigade. Beyond that, that tall obelisk monument.
Is that the New York monument?
That's the 154th New York Monument. That's Amos Humiston's regiment, right in the middle of Coster's brigade.
Yep.
On the far right, you have a marker that denotes the position of the 134th New York Infantry, the far right of the Union line, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, July 1st, 1863.
Right in your backyard, huh?
Right in my backyard, same block. And two, I don't know if you guys will want to get a shot of it, but this modern building right behind the 154th New York Monument, constructed in the 1970s, has a great mural that I'm sure a lot of folks who visited the site will recognize, painted by a guy named Mark Dunkelman. Originally in the 1980s, just about 10 years ago or so, they put some glass over it. Of course, over time, it fades, it wears, but it gives a really good representation or idea of what happened here that day. And I think too, it's one of the only places in the battlefield you can go to and see one of those physical representations of what happened here. So it really kind of brings it to life for visitors. And of course, you need something like that when you're in you're in the middle of the neighborhood right now.
So here for our July installment of Grilling History, a first day's fight at the Battle of Gettysburg, raging in what is now a very nice, quiet neighborhood, one that Rich was so kind enough to host us in, to cook up some delicious meats. I was very excited for this, so thank you for having us up to your home and being on our show. Love having you on as always. Can't wait to get you back in studio. Air conditioning, my God, there's air conditioning in there. But it's exciting. So we got a cool one coming up in August. We got another cool one coming up in September. We got a big one with Sarah Morgan in there. Very excited to go atomic, as we have been talking about, our first sort of nuclear grilling episode coming up. But lots and lots to come. So make sure you're following Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Email us at historythings@gmail.com. historythingspodcast@gmail.com. But for our guest today, Rich Condon, for our man, the ambassador himself behind and waving in front of the camera awkwardly, Parker Russell, I'm Pat McGuire, just reminding you that we are the boys who grilled up all the meat again.